Welcome to the Drum Shuffle, a podcast offering insights, perspectives, and conversations for drummers. I'm your host, Jamie Eads.
Hey, how's it going out there, everybody? Welcome to the Drum Shuffle podcast. Jamie Eads joining you as I do each and every week. This is episode 145. I hope everybody's having a great week out there. We're having a good week over here at the world headquarters of the Drum Shuffle podcast. We've got a special episode for you today. We are going to be joined by our dear friend, Bernie Dresel, right after this message from our sponsor, Los Cabos Drumsticks.
The best kept secret for drummers is finally out. Los Cabos Drumsticks may look like the sticks you grew up with, but these are not your father's drumsticks. Los Cabos Drumsticks is Canada's #1 drumstick brand, and they are coming to a retailer near you. With operations in over 28 countries worldwide, thousands of drummers have already discovered the Los Cabos difference. Using FSC certified wood from Canada and the US, Los Cabos make the finest quality drumsticks, percussion tools, and accessories on the market. The best news, Los Cabos Drumsticks offers you a ton of choice. They have 22 individual drumstick models and 14 percussion tools, many of which are available in 3 different wood types: maple, white hickory, and red hickory. Red hickory comes from the center or heart of the hickory tree and has been independently proven to be both stronger and more elastic than white hickory without adding a lot of weight. While most drumstick manufacturers have shunned red hickory, Los Cabos Drumsticks has embraced it, becoming the only established stick brand in the world to offer a full line of red hickory drumsticks. To learn more about Los Cabos Drumsticks, visit them online at loscabosdrumsticks.com, follow them on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and don't forget to ask for Los Cabos Drumsticks at your favorite retailer. Dare to be different. Join the Red Hickory Revolution with Los Cabos Drumsticks.
All right, guys and girls, as I mentioned before the break, we're going to be joined by our really good friend, Bernie Dresel, here in just a moment. Bernie has just stayed busy over the pandemic. We talked quite a bit about his new record that has been out for a couple of months now called The Pugilist. And I'm just here to tell you right now, if you are a fan of big band swing music, this is a tremendously great record that everybody should have in their library. We talk a lot about this, but Bernie, not only does he spend a lot of time, putting together these records as the band leader of the BBB featuring Bernie Dresel, but he also spends a lot of time and energy to make these records sound incredible. It's mixed in, 7.1 surround sound. It's just an amazing process, and it really is just a phenomenal record that you should have. But it's always a treat for me to keep in touch with Bernie, and we've kept in touch over the years. He was on the show back during our first year. Bernie took time out to come on and talk with us, and it's been really good for me personally just to be friends with Bernie. He's an amazing guy. He's always willing to help out somebody in the drumming community. So I know you're going to get a lot out of this. So please help me welcome back to the Drum Shuffle, the great Bernie Dresel. Hey, Bernie, good afternoon. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Jamie. I'm doing very well, unless you've heard something.
Not in the last 15 minutes. How's that?
Okay.
So
and everything's good.
You're good. So, it's funny, you and I kind of exchange emails every now and then, but we haven't actually had you on the show. I had to go back through the archives. It was actually late 2018, the last time we had you on the show. So that's far too long. So we've got to we've got to do a better job of keeping our calendars together because we can't go 3.5 years without having you on the show, man.
No, wait a second. I was told there'd be no math.
Trust me when I say this. If you want to start getting into math, this is going to be a very long interview. Let me take my shoes and socks off. But it's been quite some time, and first of all, let me do this. We go back a long way. How have you been doing through the whole pandemic? You're an LA guy, and I know that the shutdown was a lot different for you in California than it was for me here in Kentucky. How have you been?
Well, everyone has gone through just, not a good time. I mean, when you talk about when's the last time we did this or when's the last time we did that, I always say, well, just add 2 years for COVID. And then it's always longer than we think here as stuff kind of went by here. But, for many people, especially musicians and artists that were shut down, and it was our income and not, no income coming in. You couldn't go do concerts. You couldn't go to the studio. You started to go, okay, we need to record from home. But, with some of the studio work that I do most of is film and TV, and that means they had to be recording shooting film and television shows, and even they were shut down. So it just cascaded. Even though you go, oh, you could record from home, but there was not as much to record on. So it was tough. Emotionally, you're also, cooped up. So there's that kind of, I don't know what they call that, Stockholm syndrome or something, where you're, you're not getting out enough or seeing people. And for me, even recording, I love to play for audiences and hear a reaction. I mean, that's why I got into music, was seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan and the reaction to their great music. But, obviously they were good, but seeing that crowd just loving it and having a great time. And so when I play, I mean, that's, even though sometimes it's a pain in the butt to schedule gigs with my big band, 16 people in it, and put out the advertisements for it, et cetera, and work your way, get a set list. Oh, second trumpet is going to sub out here 2 days before, okay, et cetera. You get on the stage and it all means everything. It's great. Yeah. So not having to do that, very tough on emotionally, on people and myself, not to mention economically.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just, and I don't want to certainly make this about COVID and all the craziness that's gone on, right. But, it's just been so crazy to me because you said the word cascade, because that's very true, because it cascades even down from there to, drum techs, guitar techs, lighting technicians, sound techs. The whole industry shut down for a solid 18 to 24 months. And now that we're, starting to see daylight at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, I just wonder how different the world is going to be going forward for all of us, really.
Right. Well, I'm interested too, because like I said, I've been, even as they were shooting stuff again, I have a home studio, or studio on premises, you'd say, where I up my ante on mic pre's and mics for stuff I had before, and really learned Pro Tools even more as far as editing and stuff that came in handy for recording my band's record. But the going through all that, and it'll be interesting as much recording as I've done now, as we're up and running again, both at home and in the studio. It'll be interesting at the quote unquote at home studio recording will continue as much as it's been or not. Or I always felt like I was ahead of the game, like about 10, 15 years ago when I was recording in my own studio for people, but it wasn't often enough. And people generally don't want the drummer playing alone. they want the rhythm section together or whatever. So it was few and far between, I'd call it, not that, oh yeah, I was doing a lot of recording at my place. In the honesty, it was few and far between. So I went, okay, enough of that. That's not enough to keep it going. But then COVID hit, and I hadn't recorded at my place in 5 years, and I went, oh, okay, I got to get this going again. This looks like this is going to be in this, the way to go. Now is the time. So it'll be interesting if that continues as much as it's been over these, I call it the last year and a half,
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's a perfect transition, into talking about the record. And I want to make sure I get my dates right, but the record was officially released in November of 21. Is that correct?
That's right. I'd call it a soft release because, the name of the album is called The Pugilist, and the name of the band, which again, I made a mistake of making it such a long band name, but it is what it is. It's called The BBB featuring Bernie Dresel. That's the whole band title. All capital letter, featuring even. So, and for people looking for the record, my name has one S in Dresel. But, releasing the record, we did a live concert, and hey, you can get the record here at the gig at Herb Albert's Vibrato Grill in L.A. And then I put it on my website for sale, etc. But I wasn't doing any radio yet. We didn't start radio, getting it to radio stations till January, or even for getting to people like yourself trying to get the word out. I wasn't so concerned about, we've got to get these interviews going. We've got to do this. It's November 20th already. It's always to me, I feel like it's not important about when the record was released, that everything has to sell right then. It's a constant stream of sales of people finding out about the record. Like when this, your podcast gets aired, someone new will hear about it that hadn't heard about it before, and then I'll get, they'll want to buy the record, which is interesting also because I've always been a don't put it on Spotify person or Apple Music, streaming services, Tidal, etc. Even though I pay my $10 a month to listen to all the people that do put their music there, I'm not going to, I feel after spending, whether it's $30,000 to $50,000 recording an album, to just go, here it is for free, everybody. Yeah. And then my feeling is when you put it there on Spotify, people go, I can go listen to it anytime. And then they don't get around to it. Our lives are busy and they forget about it or whatever. I'll do it tomorrow. Whereas when someone purchases an album like we did as kids, you want to play it right away.
Yeah.
You want to listen to it. So, this time, I've always put it on my website, but this time I even put digital download for the Pugilist on the website, CD and surround sound Blu-ray. And I chose not to even put it on Amazon. Oh my gosh, Bernie. Why not? But what I saw, it used to be for the second album, Burn, 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 they go, okay, we're out of Burn, Burn, Burn. Send 15 more. Send 25 more. And now it started to become, we're out of this Burn, Burn, Burn. Send 3 more. And they don't want to stock as much there in their warehouses. And then it sells out quickly. And then when someone goes to buy it, it says not available.
Well, yeah, and you don't want to get in the mail order business where all you're doing is, restocking some Amazon warehouse somewhere. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You don't have time for that.
But at 3 at a time. But
yeah.
So what I don't have time for is what I'm doing now is taking the orders myself and sending it to people. But then I can sign it. It's more personal. And but I also saw during the pandemic, Gordon Goodwin Big Fat Band album. One available, Amazon. One available, $130.
Okay.
And wouldn't you know, that one never sold.
Yeah. Wouldn't you know it?
And then Amazon won't go, hey, we're out. We need more. So I chose not to play that losing game this time. And so people, when they look it up, where can I buy? Oh, it's at BernieDresel.com.
Yeah.
That's where you can get it. And even Apple iTunes, which I go, well, give it to them. What's wrong with that? Well, if I would tell people, go find it on Apple iTunes, they would try to find it and they go to Apple Music by mistake.
Yeah.
Because I think iTunes Store is kind of hidden by Apple. They want people to not sell music that way. So they're into the subscription thing where they make more money. And so I think they hide it. People go, I can't find it. Or on Apple Music, it'll say, not here, not available here. And they thought they were looking at iTunes Store. And so they stopped looking. So I'm just have tried not to even put it in those. And I think I'm selling more than I have. It's getting more radio airplay than it's before, as a third album maybe by the band, or it's just more radio friendly, or they know me, or they love the album more. But, the highest we got before was like 97 on one album, 78 on the other. This time we got up to 23. And it's still on the top 50 of the airplay after 8 weeks. So, anyway, so good things happening with it, but I've used a different approach to getting the music out there. Yeah.
Well, and, we could talk for days about the ills of the industry, so to speak, but, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, or I'm going to try not to, but, I've been listening to the record now for about a week, and, did some deep dives on it. And I want to set this up the right way. The first two BBB featuring Bernie Dresel records were done at Capitol Records. This record was done under COVID lockdown, and this was done without any of you guys being in the same room at the same time. And I just want to go on record and say, I know how legendary Capitol Records studio is. I know how great the first two records sounded. I think this one's better, Bernie. I really mean that, because you put this together yourself, one horn at a time, so to speak, and it's amazing.
Well, thank you very much. And that's just about all true. First album was a live album, but the second album, Live and Burn, 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 yes, horns were at Capitol. I actually did the drums at Sunset Sound, actually.
Oh, okay.
Alone. And, but I actually didn't really tell people that. Now I'm telling you, you've just broken the story.
Good.
Okay. So, but I played alone to a click track on that second album, but it was tunes we had played also in the clubs and had been playing. So it was all in my head also, along with the charts and then the click, and playing to that. And then we, put all the horns on at once, then put the bass on, then put the guitar on. This time, we've only played maybe 5 of the 14 tunes live, and 2 times before COVID hit. So they were not in my head. Those 5 maybe a little bit, obviously, but the other, I was told there'd be no math. Other 9 tunes, we'd never played them before. So I got MIDI demos to play to, and so because there was nothing in my head except seeing the charts. So playing the MIDI demos is how I did it, again, at my home studio, 15 microphones on the drums, me being, how this goes. You're the engineer, you're the producer, you're the player, all wearing all those hats. And not only did I play one drum part, I played a second drum kit part, sometimes with buckets or metallic sounds, like stuff that I used on Spider-Man, like the Spider-Man kit, I call it, or on Zootopia, where it's all metal, not heavy metal, but metallic sounds. I did some of that kind of stuff, or buckets, instead of conga drums, I played buckets, on this Cuban tune, called Lulu's Back in Town on the Pugilist. but I have two different drum parts going on at once. So in surround, I put the second player, me, in the back speakers and the main kit in the front. So I am playing with myself on this album.
Oh, easy. This is a G-rated show, Bernie.
What? I am. And then I played with the other musicians one at a time. They played with me. And then the lead trumpet, he's not getting to hear all the other horns. How about him? All the screaming high trumpet stuff. He's playing the MIDI demo and my drums. Then second trumpet. Then third and fourth trumpet I sent same time. Then I sent lead bone, then lead alto. Then I started filling out in the bones and then the saxophones, and then finished out with the lowest instruments, the baritone sax and the bass trombone. Then put on the bass, and then this time a new, different bass player who's from Serbia. His name is George Stiapovic, and so there's a lot for a big band record. It's about 30% of the album is slap upright bass, and it kind of alludes to my time with the Brian Setzer Orchestra and the rockabilly thing. So, but yeah, so we're playing one at a time, and then guitar and keyboards came on at the end. But again, one at a time. Now I'm taking all these parts in during COVID, one thing at a time, listening to one guy play or one gal play, and then going, okay, that's cool. That sounds way better than MIDI, and then watch it grow with human players coming on. But the thing is, when humans play together, you adjust pitch-wise and also, timing-wise, that if one person's a little ahead, the other person will kind of migrate to them, or they're apart a little bit, behind and ahead. They'll come together because they're sitting right next to each other in the horn section, or the bass player and the drummer. When you add to a player that doesn't hear you, it's a one-way street of adjustment, not both adjusting to each other. So this, cascaded down along the way, which means they're not quite together some of the time. Sometimes it's great, sometimes a little, not to mention they call cutoffs on the note where they go, da. Maybe the other person goes, da. Just a little too long.
Yeah.
And so some of that stuff that my editing chops came in, where I learned this through COVID, to okay, I need to kind of tighten that up a little bit, but without destroying it. We're still humans. If you make things perfect, it sounds like a keyboard. It's boring. There's no drama. Are they going to make it? There's something that the human listening to it registers that big deal. This doesn't really do anything for my heart or my soul as I listen. But when it's a little bit loose, but tight enough, that's where, you might go, oh, wow, check out Tower of Power. They're so tight. But if you put them on a grid, you might go, wow, they're not as tight as I thought.
Well, yeah.
But it feels good. The feel is there, and it's human, and it's pretty darn tight for humans. So that's what I had to be careful of as I did some editing with possibly some intonation a little bit here or there, or timing to bring it together but not too much. And so I think I did that, where people go, I can't believe you guys didn't play together.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And it feels like you're together.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I put it on, and, the opening track is called the Pugilist. And, I thought it was just so cool that, the very first thing you hear on the record is just kind of a snare drum roll that literally sounds like a boxer punching somebody. And then you hear the bell ring, and it's just, the record just blasts out, and it's like, wow. And that was the first thought I had was, I can't believe these guys aren't in the same room together. I mean, I literally blew my mind. After I knew how the record was put together, it was hard for me to fathom that you guys weren't playing together in a room.
And then, of course, as a drummer, when you play first, and even though there's MIDI there or whatever, you play first. The MIDI's not the same as a human either. It's hard to tell. Well, that's a high MIDI trumpet note, but how high is it? When you really hear the human guy, oh, wow, they're screaming there. That's really high. You can hear the angst in their chops bleeding. And you go, oh, I need to be hitting this harder there. So trying to do that and just kind of feeling like where I think it should be going when I'm not really hearing them. And also, you know, if you don't hear as much going on, you might move around on that click a little more. So, you know, trying to keep it, you know, where it's feeling good, you know, and not to mention, you know, 2 drum set parts. And, you know, and as I'm doing that, I go, you know, no one wrote 2 drum set parts. I go, well, what should I do? You know, my idea is, wow, this is the 3rd album we're releasing in surround sound and 5.1 and Oro 3D 9.1 with vertical height channels of surround that's on the Blu-ray, 96K, 24-bit. To have the 2 drum set part, okay, what should I do with that? Should it be like James Brown, just 2 normal drum sets? Well, this is swing and jazz most of the time, big band. What can I do that hasn't been done before? Because, you know, there's been a lot of big band albums. So it's always cool when you can try and do something a little new or like hybrid with different things like the Setzer and the Elvis rockabilly slap bass, or on fast swing, like when I'm at 290 beats per minute on, that's a fun tempo. You know, some bands don't even get to that fast swing tempo, or they do a little bit. So I like playing up there, those tempos, but I went, okay, what could I do with the second drum part on that? And so it would either be with like a Weird Crasher by Sabian or Metal Sounds by Keplinger, or the buckets, like the rubber buckets, and even on the Cuban tune, I did a $55 bucket, 55 gallon, not dollar, gallon bucket for a bass drum, along with the real bass drum by the other drummer and me. And you know, going, okay, what can I do? I go, well, you know, Weather Report, they used to do like a halftime. You know, whether it was with Peter Erskine or whoever, they would do like a halftime backbeat on the swing. There was a tune called Night Passage on the album Night Passage by Weather Report. I go, oh yeah, there's like a so almost hip hop in a way, you know, that's the shuffly thing, but halftime backbeat. I go, okay, well I'll play the first drummer. We'll play all traditional big band, and then I'll have the second drummer in the back almost being a little more hip hop with that halftime backbeat. And that happens on a few tunes. I go, okay, well, that's dressing it up in a new way. And then it still has to sound good in stereo, as you don't have the separation of the front and back of the surround. And subtle enough that it doesn't destroy everything, that it's way too much going on. So I hope, you know, trying to do that, you know. Sometimes with the swing or like in the funk, there's a tune called Rico's Rowdy Rumba. That, again, you know, if you do a funk tune with a big band or rock, straight eighth, it can sound kind of dated if you're not careful. And so this was written in 3/4, so not traditional 2/4 backbeat, but in that there was like this metric modulation sounding of 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and da 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 da, where I would put that over the top of it in the secondary drum set, or even as the main drum set some of the time, jumping on that. So even one of the whole sax solo in the middle of that tune goes into that 4/4 shuffle metric modulation. So I try to do some weird things too when it comes to straight eighth with the big band. So it's not just everybody put your hands together, 2 and 4, you know, and listen to this instrumental big band. So and in fact, the last tune, I was kind of thinking like some of my production ideas come from the way the Beatles would do stuff, and I grew up on them and tried to bring some of their ideas of production into big bands, you know, and my records, this third album. And the last tune, I think of like, well, you know, on Revolver, Tomorrow Never Knows, just like a tune, like almost did like, what is that on that album all of a sudden with the loops they were doing and the chanting. And all the tape loops of noise and stuff. I go, okay, well, okay, let's put on a Zappa tune at the very end of this album. And it's rock, and it does eventually get to 2 and 4 on like the sax and guitar shredding solos. But the tune, like, here, I had to pull out the chart just to look. It's like 3/4, 5/16 for 2 bars, a bar of 2/4, a bar of 5/4, but every beat is divided into 5s. Then we arrive at a groove for 4 bars in 15/16. Now we go to 4/4. And so, gosh, he barely got out of the gate here, and there's like 6 time changes there. But it's a vocal tune, too, and all that weird time signature stuff, and Zappa's Beloved. And so I finally got some vocal tunes on a BBB album. I always said there's no piano in the BBB. There could be keyboards on the album, but no piano ever. That's a rule for the BBB. There will be no vocalist ever that will come up and sing one song. The lovely blah, blah, blah would like to bring her up and sing one song and then sit down.
Yeah.
So I went, we've got 2 trumpet players that can sing. So Tony Bonsera, one of our lead trumpets, he's singing the Zappa tune and all the background vocals. And he's a big Zappa fan, and he sounds great on it. I go, okay, that's how we can get a vocal tune where it makes sense for someone to pop out of the horn section and sing a tune and then go back and blast their lips away some more on lead trumpet. And the second, or the other vocal tune on the album is a COVID-related tune,
which is great, by the way. It's great.
Yeah, what's it called?
Positive for the blues.
Yeah, and it really should be I tested positive for the blues.
Yes.
So you finally get that as you hear the tune, you know. But yeah, that's Carl Saunders, who used to play with Buddy Rich, you know, and he's singing and scouting on that. And again, part of the band. And the funny story about Carl is, you know, he's been around a while. He's very great, you know, very good, very opinionated. And he got fired by Buddy Rich 3 times.
Didn't everybody that played in Buddy Rich's band get fired 3 times?
No, not 3 times. Maybe once.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. Not everyone got fired. But he got fired 3 times. And so and his saying is, well, Bernie, you know, that means the good thing is I did get hired 3 times, meaning that Buddy loved him enough to want to hire him back.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Carl was kind of opinionated about stuff. And I guess Buddy told Carl, it's okay if you say something to me, but just don't do it in front of the whole band like that, like almost challenging the leader, you know. Yeah. And so Carl goes, okay, well, don't fire me in front of the whole band. But yeah, so that's Carl singing and captured him on the album singing.
Well,
yeah.
And that's a great tune, you know, and that was the first thing that really jumped out to me as I was, you know, I try to sit down and listen to the record as it's meant to be listened to, and that's start to back, right? You don't skip around. That's the way I grew up listening to records.
And that's the way I tried to put the album together, with tempos, styles, and, like, again, ending with the Zappa tune even.
But it really caught my attention because you get to that tune and I was like, oh my God, there's vocals on this. This is amazing, you know? So it was a nice change of pace for a BBB record to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm with you. It makes sense to have one of your horn guys come out and sing a song rather than bring somebody out from the green room to sing one and then kick them off the stage to continue the show. It doesn't make a lot of sense for you guys.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to state this, but as with all of your records, this thing sounds amazing. It really, really does. And, you know, if any of my listeners are out there and they're like, well, you know, I don't know. Do I want to just get a digital download or do I want to spring for the Blu-ray? I'm telling you right now, spring for the Blu-ray. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Your dinner parties will never be the same if you put this thing on in Blu-ray at a dinner party. Everybody's going to be like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. Well, it is interesting too about, Blu-ray. Like some people that goes, I don't have a CD player anymore or in my car. I go, well, do you have a DVD player? They go, yeah. I go, that plays the CDs.
Yes.
They go, oh, I didn't think about that. But if they have a Blu-ray player, they might not have the back speakers, for the surround, 5.1 even. Most people definitely don't have 9.1. Some people do, though. But the 5.1 is like to hear your birds chirping, on your movies or whatever, a car crash in those back speakers. Well, in this regard, then you're surrounded by all those horns and the band and the two drummers, and it's pretty exciting. But even if you don't, and you get the Blu-ray, people go 96K 24-bit. Can you hear the difference? Does it really sound better? And when I play it through my system, I hear the difference. I don't hear it so much on my phone when I hear those 96K 24. It might be the A to D converter on the iPhone. I don't know. But when I play it on the Blu-ray player, I feel a happier, fun. I enjoyed that more. I can't go, oh, that seemed brighter. There's something more real about the 96K 24-bit and the Blu-ray where the stair-stepping of the waveform is more, and not so squared off in bigger chunks. It's almost straighter to like a tape, or vinyl in that sense. Now, I did release the first album on vinyl and Live and Burnin', so you can get that at my website. But I haven't done vinyl yet. The jury's still out if I'm going to do vinyl again on the Pugilist. Probably, but we'll see. I said that about Burn, 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 then I didn't.
Well, it's really expensive, as you know, and I think a lot of people are going to the vinyl thing, and I don't know if it's out of a sense of nostalgia or if they truly believe it sounds better. I've got a record player. I own some things on vinyl. I just think that so many music consumers, okay, this is going to be my one statement on this. Music consumers never consume an album the way the artist intends. And I'm not trying to offend anybody by that, but we don't buy whatever format of music and listen to the whole album anymore. We haven't done it for 25 years now. The way the artist always intends for you to listen to a record is to sit down and listen to the record, not track 7, not track 12. They want you to sit down and listen to it as a work. Am I wrong in that, Bernie?
Totally. Well, in my case, totally correct. I grew up, again, growing up on the Beatles, and I'm going, hey, we want the album to be like this, like the English releases, not the American releases, all cut up. And, when Sgt. Pepper ends with Day in the Life and the big chord at the end, Burn, 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 I kind of had like the clarinet choir do a soft C major chord at the end, kind of a surprise chord. They were on the album earlier, and suddenly they come back at the end. So I really try to think about the whole album and like the sequencing. And some people have told me, wow, what a good sequence of the way the tunes run from one to the other, et cetera. And like even that fight bell you mentioned at the front on the Pugilist at the end of the Zappa tune, I snuck it in there on the end and said, and then I ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
And so meaning 3 bells at the end of a fight is the end of the fight. I learned this. 1 bell is the beginning of the round. So 14 rounds on this album, 14 songs. Try to make it an album, yes. And that's another reason I'm not selling individual downloads like Apple does. I'm just selling the whole album for $10 on my website. $9.99. And, yes, I definitely think that way. I like that, the whole album. I do tell some of my friends that when they buy it, I go, make sure you're leaving enough time to listen to the whole thing through, because that's the way I try to record it and have it be, how long is this one, 65? I don't remember.
It's
6320.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there.
6320.
It's an hour of listening, but it's, as you know, as always with you, everything sounds incredible. And one of the things that we didn't get to the last time we had you on the show, we just touched on it very briefly, but you mentioned earlier 15 mics on the kit when you recorded this. And I just want to say, I know that you've had a long association with Craviotto drums. Man, your kit sounds incredible on this record.
Thank you.
Whatever you did, you got it dialed in, and it sounds so good. So for the listeners that are drummers, which, let's face it, most of my listeners are going to be drummers, this is a master class in how to record a drum set.
You want me to tell you real quick?
Sure.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Please.
So I used ATM 25s on the bass drum, close mic, and on the toms. That's a dynamic mic that's discontinued. Still can get them on eBay. Then on the snare, I put two, instead of the Shure 57, I put the Buyer 201. Twice as much as a 57. Still only $200 dynamic mic, but it has a lot of condenser quality to it. And then, what did I use? Oh, yeah, the Josephson E22S for the condenser. Then I put a Shure SM7B on the side of the snare, like the A&F guys do when they're showing you their videos. That kind of gets the snare side, kind of rattle, whatever, of the snares. Then I did overhead. AEA mics and pre's are very prominent on this album, as it was on Burn, Burn, Burn. An R88 on the overhead, which is a Bloomline stereo, and another R88 about 8 feet in front of the kit. And let me tell you this, right? I recorded this in my apartment living room.
Of course you
meaning
did.
The drums.
Yeah. So, because why not?
So, put up the blankets around the room, close the curtains, the sofas, knocking stuff down, pillows around, and that's how I recorded it. And so the bass drum, I told you that, and then also a what's it called? That like a Yamaha sub kick on the front, and then but an R44 AEA R44 about 12 inches in front of the bass drum. And different bass drums for different tunes. For the swing and big bands, I'm using I've used for the BBB a long time, a 26-inch Craviotto that's poplar, mahogany, poplar, and 26 by 14. But then on some of the tunes that are tighter, I would use a 24-inch ash. Or the La Vie en Rose, when I went, I want to be different on this one and do kind of a little more intimate kind of thing. I used an 18-inch bass drum on that one, ash bass drum. Those ash bass drums in that kit, Pink Sparkle, BB Sparkle, Bernie Vicky Sparkle, was the last kit Johnny signed. And he said, does Bernie know he's getting pink? Yeah. But, so that's, what else? Is there something, hi-hat. What did I use in the hi-hat? Because I've recently switched. Oh, yeah, the old Zeppelin, the room sound one, the ribbon. What is it? Fire 160 on the hi-hat. I think that's 16. Yeah.
Well, it just sounds
15.
So good. Sounds so good. So, look, and I know you do all kinds of stuff. I mean, and we can touch on it if you want, but I know you did the Spider-Man movies, and you've got a new, what is it? Despicable Me 3 that's getting ready to come out that you did. You go into all these different studios. I'm curious, when you go in and presumably, Cartage has brought your kit in, and you go in and you're reading a chart on one of these scores. How much are you picking up from your engineering brain? Are you looking to see what mics they're using? Are you stealing some of those ideas or borrowing those ideas, or are you really just there to play? We
steal from everybody.
Okay.
Musically. So sure, looking what they do. But then, during COVID, like going to someone's YouTube channel that's talking about what they do, or going to AEA's channel to see how they're recording some things with their ribbon mics. And like so part of this, not only learning Pro Tools, I used to be a digital performer and editing also on Pro Tools, et cetera. Just dealing with that over COVID and going, oh gosh, how do you do this? How do you do this? What was I going to say? And then learning about pre's and going, okay, one guy says one thing, one guy says another. Let me hear some audio clips over YouTube, and then throwing down and buying stuff and trying it. So, like for instance, my pre's are API or Brent Averill API style. Some of the MA5s are like Neve style by Eads, and then those AEA pre's on the ribbon mics. But I forgot one important one that I now have two. Is I also used a Chandler recreation, the Red 47 tube pre for a Coles overhead. Mono overhead also, along with the stereo AEA. But so using that, I go, wow, that tube. And in fact, we used that tube pre to record. I did record the vocals here. Okay. I had them come over. It was near the end. I go, okay, let's wear masks. And it was a little, still a little, weirder then. But I had them come over because I want you to sing. And they sang into the R44 through the Red 47 pre. And so learning all this stuff from reading articles, searching the internet and seeing what people do there, what they've done, So, I mean, one of the greatest things, and I cried about it even. I cried when this thing was finished. Oh, my gosh, I got through COVID. Oh, my gosh, the album is sounding good. There it is. It's done. But when I did one of the movies, I won't say who it is, but a big engineer, I sent him the drum tracks, and you go, okay, cross my fingers that he's liking what I do. He's amazing. And I sent him the drum tracks, and he eventually gets back to me and goes, Bernie, how did you get that bass drum sound? I go, oh, my gosh, well, it sounds so good. I go, well, thank you. It starts with the Craviotto. It always starts with the instrument. But I did this and I did it. He goes, well, I know that kind of thing. I go, and then that R44 out in front of it. Oh, and he goes, it sounds so good. So, sometimes I'll do something maybe that those guys never did. Cause sometimes I'm in a spot where I have a little more room, like to do that room mic thing, or I put a Ocean Way, what's it called? UAD plug-in of Ocean Way Room on the room mic on top of it to make it even sound like a bigger room if I want that. Or I did that on the horns, put Ocean Way Room on it and then a plate reverb on the horns because they're just sending me one mic and they're trying to make it sound like they're in a room, not just in their tight sounding close bedroom. Yeah. And in fact, one of the tunes, here's a good story. One of the tunes, I switched around there a little. The opening tune, the Pugilist, I said to the guy that invented Oral 3D, he's listening to what we've mixed, and he goes, the Pugilist, I feel like, that's not rocking as much as it should. It's the opening track, it's the title track, and to me, it's the worst mix I created on this pre-mix before we went to Belgium to mix it there. And at Galaxy Studios in Mol, Belgium, where Oro 3D was created. And he goes, well, why do you want that tune to be the opening? Shouldn't it be this other one? I go, no, it needs to be that. That's the name of the album. It sets the right mood I want to set, but it just doesn't pop. What can we do? Do your magic. I can't do it. And so what he ended up doing, he put the horns out into the tracking room through two speakers and then set up a decatry of like M50s or I guess Neumann M50s, I think, and did a decatry where it's left, right, and center.
I gotcha.
And re-recorded the room getting activated by the speakers of the horns. And then he did that again for the drums. So that one tune is that kind of thing. I think Van Halen used to do something like that with like miking Voice of the Theater speakers at Sunset Sound or something and recording that to make it sound, like a different sound and bigger. And so we did that. And then the co-producer, Gary Reber, who he saw Stan Kenton 200 times. He worked with Buddy Rich on one of Buddy's last video projects that he did. He goes, okay, let's do that on every tune. Let's do that. And then the engineer goes, nah, I think it's just that one tune needs it. Okay, I said. So, done. But that's how we added even an extra room sound that wasn't in the box per se. Yeah.
Well,
so.
I'm kicking a dead horse at this point, but it just sounds so incredible, Bernie. I mean, it really does. And, we talk on this podcast so much about how drummers can spend an entire career, 50 years, being a sideman, right? And never really taking control of their career and being in charge of their own destiny. You are the poster child for how to do that. You did everything on this record up into selling the darn thing, so you now have full creative control over your own artistic destiny. I guess the question is, did you do it out of necessity or did it just kind of happen that way?
Yeah, it's not necessity because I can be a sideman. I can be, you look up and you go, yeah, I guess I am doing a lot, quote unquote, a lot of studio work. It's not like the days of Hal Blaine and John Robinson back then when they were like all day long, 7 days a week kind of thing. But overall, it appears I'm doing so making a good living, as they say, and getting to do some really good projects and good music and good people and good writers. And, I'm fortunate. But, and I've gotten to play with Brian Setzer or go out with Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band and do that. Some great, won some Grammys with them. So some great things. But then I go, okay, I'm going to just kind of be studio guy in town. But yeah, I want to, I had put together like a funk band. We were called Burn, where it was 4 horns, 4 singers, 5 rhythm. And we did like Tower of Power, Shaka Khan, Stevie Wonder, but then we'd mash it up with other things and like mash 2 Steely Dan tunes together. And it was something we would never record, but we were doing it once a month for 7 years, and packed places and fun. And look, everyone, I'm not just a jazz player. I'm not just rockabilly Brian Setzer. I'm playing funk. I'm playing groove music. So it was kind of a dual purpose to show another side of me that maybe not everyone sees. But it was, there I am, doing, being quote unquote the leader, although I wanted to be a co-op. You end up, being a leader, basically pushing things. And then I went, okay, that's done. The guys don't feel like they're not going, like, when are we playing next? It seems like, okay, 7 years of every month. Felt like, okay, I'm not going to book it. See what happens. No one in the band goes, hey, how come we're not playing? I go, okay, we're done. No one said anything. And then I go, okay, I'm going to start my own big band. I think it's safe to come out of the waters and go back into a big band setting again after Brian Setzer, because you can get pigeonholed as one style, per se.
Yeah.
So I go, okay, let me do the big band now. So people know me enough that I do all kinds of stuff, including orchestral percussion sessions, et cetera, that I felt like there wasn't danger. So let me do this big band thing. I think I grew up on this, grew up listening to Buddy and big band, playing in big bands, and let me do that. And I'll do all this fun stuff like Maynard Ferguson, Woody Herman, Buddy Rich, like classic fun stuff that would be cool to play that I never played before, even growing up, certain tunes. So I did that. Then I went, okay, now I've got a big band called the BBB featuring Bernie Dresel. We can't record those tunes. Time Check's already been recorded. Give It One by Maynard's already been recorded. All right, so let's get some new arrangements, new tunes, and see if we can record. because I couldn't record with Bernie either, of what we were doing. And it just kind of grew, and I go, okay, I get to have creative control of, I'm not writing the arrangements, I'm not writing the songs, but I'm kind of producing a show or deciding what's going to be on a record and kind of producing in that sense and playing and going, okay, what kind of tunes do I want to play that will showcase me as a drummer that actually gives it a reason to be called my band, where I'm not just a side man. So, featuring the drums, certain tempos, mixing up the grooves, etc. And then there you go. Now we're looking at 5 years later after I put 3 albums, or 6 years, whatever it's been now. And, now I almost go after this record, I go, gosh, I don't know if I can do another one. That was a lot of work. And wow, I don't know. Well, I keep doing this. I've always quit a live, like Brian Setzer or Gordon Goodwin, after 15 years. Like, I'll quit my own band after 15 years. But I quit Burn after 7 or 8 years. And here's the BBB at 6.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Well, clearly you're bathing in the fountain of youth, Bernie. I mean, you're going to do this forever. Well, look, I do color my hair. Well, that's okay. Don't we all? I'll have to tell you sometime about a gig that I had with a young up and coming country artist, and I was told I needed to dye my hair, and that was my last. That was my last gig with them. But all joking aside, I want to be respectful of your time. But I know that you were just recently in Vegas doing some stuff. I know that you're teaching. Is there any hope of a clinic tour anytime soon? Because it's been a while since you've been out there doing that kind of thing. I would love to see you going around doing clinics and master classes again as soon as you possibly can.
It's interesting because when I go do those, that means suddenly I get a call for West Side Story or the Batman or whatever, and I go, can't do it. I got this clinic to go do. But that would be like going to do a live gig too or whatever. But I like teaching. I used to teach at UNLV for, almost 10 years, I guess it was, 8 years or something. There's that number again. But I was just over there doing a drum set concerto. I played it with the UNLV Wind Orchestra about a month ago, and then we just recorded it. And so that's something where I might try to see if I can go out and play with some major orchestras and be like the concerto soloist, guest soloist with their orchestras. That way I don't have to bring a whole big band out. But as far as clinics, I'm a teacher. I teach. I said, I go, give me 5 more minutes. I'm tidying up with a student here. And I like it. I got a music ed degree when I went to school at Eastman and performance. But, so I think I do a good clinic. I did one at PAS in Indianapolis. I don't know add 2 years for COVID. I don't know, 4 years ago, something like that. I think I do an educational one. I'm not up there telling jokes per se. Even though I'm better at improvising funny than telling a bit. But I feel like so many drummers want to be doing that. And maybe some that aren't working, that are great drummers, but they're not working as much as me, and they push harder to try to get those. Or they're in a style of music where they're in magazines per se more than myself. I don't know. I don't feel like they're knocking on my door to do them, but I would do them if they want to set it up. But I've done them here and there, let's say that, or if I'm a guest soloist with a college or whatever.
Well, my next call will be to Steve Maxwell and the folks at Craviotto to get you out there doing, some master classes and clinics. That I'll call Sam Bacco is what I'll do. So,
okay. I did get to see the new Craviotto warehouse in Nashville. When they moved from San Jose for Freedom, and and I met Sam, but it was just like the stuff was just showing up there. It hadn't even. It was just barely, stuff laying around. They were just getting ready to get going with it. So I did meet Sam that time.
Well, he is a master craftsman and a wonderful, orchestral player in and of himself. I mean, he's just been on, God, thousands of records and, percussion with the Nashville Symphony. He's just an amazing guy. He's worked on some of my vintage gear for me over the years and just a master craftsman. So Craviotto got themselves a good man to
and he's come up with that new ply drum for them, because Craviotto is, people don't know, has been solid shell 1-ply drums, and it's just amazing. Hardly any glue then, because you don't have plies. It's 1-ply to glue together. But he's created a new drum for Craviotto that is a ply drum with a different edge, I go, wow, what are they doing? Is it just going to be another ply drum? And why do that? But I haven't played them yet, but it appears from how they talk about what they're doing, it does seem like it's a different story off of other ply drum shells. So I'll be interested to play one of those too at some point.
Well, he has worked magic over the years. The Nashville era Slingerlands, that was all Sam. I mean, he's just so good. But I'll be curious to see what all he does with the brand, and it's going to be amazing. But we're going to do our best to get you out on a clinic tour as soon as you possibly can, because you're just a wealth of information, Bernie. I mean, you look, there are a lot of guys that play a lot of styles, and I just want to say this. I'm a fan of your work. The way that you approach the instrument, a lot of guys think, oh, jazz is kind of sleepy, and that's not you. You bring an energy to the big band genre of music that hasn't been seen for a lot of years. And, kudos to you for doing so. So the more you can teach, the better. I'm
getting goosebumps. Thank you for saying that.
Oh, you're welcome, man. I mean it too. And I just want to make sure everybody knows they can get the record. It's The Pugilist. They can get the record at BernieDresel.com. I will make sure I have a link up on thedrumshuffle.com so that folks can just click a link when they're listening to this and go over and pick up a copy. Thank you so much for taking time to do this, Bernie. I appreciate it. And let's not wait 3.5 years next time.
All right.
Anytime.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
Tomorrow I'm free.
Okay, about
I could do the clinic tour and talk with you again.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
Absolutely. But seriously, anytime you have something to talk about,
thank you.
Come on here and do it. I love talking with you, and we're going to send some folks your way, brother.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Bernie.
And I'll try and keep my energy up that you say I have. But again, my espresso machine just broke, so I have to go buy a new one tonight. People go, "Where do you get your energy, Bernie?" I go, "Quadruple espressos."
There you go. Well, good luck. I hope you find a good deal on a newest espresso machine. So, Bernie, as always, thank you so much, brother.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate being on your show, and thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right, guys and girls, that's going to wrap up episode 145 of the Drum Shuffle podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. We simply cannot do this show without each and every one of you streaming and downloading the show each and every week, and we truly thank you for your efforts to give us some of your undivided attention once a week. We really do appreciate it. Many thanks to Bernie Dresel for taking time out of his busy schedule to come on the show and talk with us. It's always a pleasure catching up with Bernie. As I ask every week, go ahead and hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts. We really appreciate your efforts around that. The biggest thing you can do to help our show is share a link with a friend. That helps us more than you'll ever know. It only takes you a second, and it means the world to me. So thank you for doing so in advance. We answer every single email we get here at the Drum Shuffle Podcast. That email address is thedrumshufflepodcast@gmail.com. Our web address is thedrumshuffle.com, and you can always find more information on me over at jamieeads.com. Your homework assignment is, as it has been for the last 2 years, go out and see some live music before it all goes away. So, until next time, may your head stay strong and your stick never break. Cheers, everybody.